What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the latest episode of The Layup.Line. My name is Dolos, and if you're new to this channel, you should definitely consider subscribing for more NBA videos like this one. Today, I'm going to be talking about a few of the most underrated players in the league this season. I wanted to put together a list of players that are having really good seasons. For all of these guys, I feel like I haven't heard their names enough in sports media or even on social media in general. But a disclaimer before I start, I set a few rules for myself because one, I didn't want any all-stars on the list because fans of every team think that their best player doesn't get talked about enough. So I generally wanted to select some sub all-star tier guys who are actually underrated. And the second rule is that each of these players have to be in at least their fourth season. And the thinking for that is that so much of judging young players is about potential, and players with less games played are generally more obscure and harder to rate. And the last rule was that I did this in an all NBA team format, so I picked 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center for my all NBA underrated team. A real quick honorable mention for a few guys that didn't meet the criteria or just didn't make the cut. I did have Darius Garland, Mikal Bridges, Miles Bridges, DeAndre Hunter, and Jakob Poeltl in consideration before I kind of ironed out rules for myself. But moving on to the actual underrated team, and the first guard is Charlotte's Terry Rozier. Charlotte got clowned by me and many others for the contract that they gave to Rozier, but he's easily been worth it, especially because of the injuries to LaMelo and Hayward. But Terry has an argument as the best player on a playoff team right now. Rozier is pretty easily the worst defender that's going to be on this list, but he's still scrappy and he competes on defense. He'll sometimes make up for the defensive mistakes with athleticism, and he's become a better decision maker since leaving Boston. The Hornets have also been exceeding expectations with Rozier as well. Last year, before even getting Melo and Hayward, Terry was still giving you 18 points a game, and the Hornets finished 10th in the conference when a lot of people thought they'd easily be the worst team in the league. Terry Rozier also carries hard in clutch time. His 40% three-point shooting jumps up to 50%, and his field goal percentage elevates to 54% according to NBA.com. Charlotte won 16 of 24 clutch time games this season, and obviously Rozier is a big reason why. So this is my apology to Terry Rozier because the guy is a killer. He absolutely made the right decision betting on himself in free agency, and he's one of my top 5 underrated players this season. As for my second guard spot, I'm going to go with Toronto's Fred VanVleet. If not for games played, I don't see why he wouldn't easily be first team all defense. Fred is 6'1", he's averaging nearly 2 steals and a block. For a sign of how good he is on defense, just look to the Raptors matchup against the Bucks where VanVleet was easily just ripping the ball away from a 2-time MVP in Giannis. And while he's not the most efficient guard, 9 threes a game on league average shooting is still pretty impressive. And he's a guy with the intangibles, and he's a great secondary playmaker. With Kyle Lowry potentially leaving the Raptors, Fred's the successor and a big part of the future of that franchise. Just this season, we have seen a glimpse of what that could look like since Lowry's missed so many games, and Fred has had a 50-point game, a 27-point, 13-assist game. He's also had a 4-block game and a 5-steal game. The guy is good, and not just good, he's underrated. But moving on to the first forward of my all underrated team, I have Cleveland's Larry Nance Jr. Larry is easily the worst offensive player on the list, but he also would have certainly been an all defensive candidate if he was healthy all year. To start the year when the Cavs were actually a good defense, Larry was a huge part of that, and he's also continued to develop offensively. He's a good passer for his position, and we've now had back-to-back years around league average 3-point shooting, and if Larry Nance starts playing both ends at a high level, he's probably just the most impactful role player in the league. Nance is good in pick and roll, and he's developing that 3. He's a good finisher, he's an amazing athlete, and he's extremely versatile on defense. He's a plus passer for his position, and I also think he's a great teammate, and he's an even better person because during the season he was auctioning off his game-worn jerseys or teammates' jerseys so he could benefit local Cleveland businesses that were hit hard by the pandemic. The basketball stuff aside, good guy Larry Nance belongs on a list like this, and he deserves his respect in the league. The last forward on my all underrated team is another Toronto Raptor, and that's OG Anunoby. Question: who do you think is the NBA's most versatile defender? If your answer was not OG Anunoby, then you're probably wrong because he legit guards all 5 positions and he's a one-on-one stopper. He has great size and physical tools on top of high defensive IQ. I really like Anunoby, and it breaks my heart that he was injured during the Raptors title run because I wish he would have gotten a chance to play on the biggest stage for them. He's in the ideal developmental organization, and he spent the season improving his handle and becoming a more aggressive scorer. Currently, he's averaging 16 points on good efficiency, but he's been hitting the 20s 6 times in his last 10 games. The only thing keeping him from being a 20-point scorer is the aggressiveness. He isn't a natural scorer and he isn't looking to attack often enough, but just know that when he does and he wants to score, he's probably going to. He's only 23, and I don't think it's a reach to say that he could make an all-star appearance in his career, which is why I think he makes my all-underrated team. And finally, moving on to the center for my all-underrated team, I have the Grizzlies' Jonas Valanciunas. The Grizzlies have had a very difficult season, and because of injuries and positive cases, they had all of their games and practices canceled for 10 days, and their second half schedule was completely overloaded to compensate. So I don't think it's a hot take to say that Jonas has had some stretches where he was Memphis's best player. He's a double-double machine, he's a serviceable defensive player, he's efficient, and he takes the occasional 3. He's also a good post scorer who's adding a stretch element to his game. He's got a good argument as a top 10 center, and I don't really know that people view him that way, which is why he made my all underrated team. But these are just my opinions. Leave a like if you learned something new or if you like what I do. Comment down below who your underrated team is. Don't forget to subscribe and enjoy the rest of your day.